Hi everyone, Melanie here, and a happy new year to you all. I'm back to work, back to making videos to help you recover and move on from your disastrous relationship, to help you heal and recover. And I wanted to start this year with a video talking about a question that I get asked a lot. And this question is, my ex says that they will get help now. Should I get back with them? If you walked away from the relationship and now your ex is saying, okay, look, I'll do couples counselling with you. I'll get individual therapy. Let's just make it work again. What do you do? This is something I get asked a lot, and I wish that there is an answer that I could give to everyone, but there really isn't. All I can do is share with you my perspective, offer my opinions, and it's also based on not only it's from the people that I work with as well. If you can just get into my mind and witness all the stories that I hear from my clients, that I read in my emails, you get a glimpse of them in the comments below under my videos. It's a hard situation, and it's really difficult. But hopefully with this video, I can help inspire you to get a better understanding of where to go from here. So for those of you who are new to the channel, I'm a mental health counsellor. I've been working for over 10 years in the field of trauma recovery, and I also trained as a life coach as well, but I mostly work in counselling. And from the point of view of someone as a counsellor, let me tell you that change is not easy. Not many people are willing to change. Not many people are willing to stick to change. It's one thing to entertain the idea of changing. We may get inspired by a film that we're watching, or a book that we're reading, or stories that we hear from friends. People, their experiences can inspire us to entertain the idea of being different, of change. But to actually implement a regular daily practice to keep this change going, this is where people struggle. Because it's not just about introducing something new into your daily lifestyle. It's also about stopping the old habits as well. It's about changing your life to make space, to give time and energy for this new habit, for this new change to take root and to develop. And a lot of people will walk away from this. And why is this? It's because the ego hates change and prefers familiarity all the time. Change is scary. It's a leap into the unknown. Even though our rational mind would agree that to change our habits, say eating habits, for example, is good for us. It's good to be healthy. However, when we actually start to implement a diet and then cravings and impulses come up and try to rationalize going back to old habits. So my point is that it takes a lot of inner resolve, determination, willpower to not only want to seek help, but to continue some sort of therapeutic practice regularly. And I say therapeutic practice because it doesn't necessarily need to be with a counsellor. Whatever it is, it's the willingness to stick to something that has the potential to reshape and change you. And there are plenty of practices that have been described about throughout cultures, throughout time, to help us do this. So I'm not going to say, hey, it has to be counselling, to help you change. I'm a fan of counselling, but then I'm also a fan of coaching. I'm also a fan of plant medicine. I'm a fan of meditation. I'm a fan of philosophy. Point is that drive, that willingness to pursue and to keep going. This is what you need to pay attention to when someone's saying, hey, look, I'll get help. Shall we get back together then? Because there's words and there's actions. Now, when you are still in love with someone, and when someone says these words to you, yes, I will get help, I will change, do you think they actually will though? And it's really hard to ascertain this, because if you're in love with someone, you just want to see what you want to see. Because you miss them. You want to believe that things can get better. You want to believe that they can get better. It takes a strong and wise person and a brave person to admit, I may be in denial here. I may be thinking that things are better than they are. Let's look objectively at his or her actions. If this is an ongoing thing, your ex said they'd get into therapy, they'd seek help, and maybe they do for like 1 or 2 sessions and they stop. Or maybe they don't. But the point is that you get back together and things go back to the way they were, and then you start to pull away and they get anxious and say, look, hey, look, I will get that therapy, I will stick to it. You get back into it and nothing really changes. What evidence do you have that they actually will get help now? They need that motivation. People need to be motivated to want to seek help for themselves. Where is the extra motivation? If they're not motivated and nothing's changing, then nothing will change. They need that motivation. So perhaps you actually staying away and having boundaries and honoring them, maybe that actually is them finally hitting rock bottom, and then they're motivated to seek change. That's me objectively speaking. I'm not in this relationship like you are. But I remember from my previous experiences, especially when there's been threats of self-harm, that's linked with this as well. And that in itself deserves an entirely different video, separate video on its own. Point being, I understand very well the dynamics of the fear and the guilt and just quite simply being scared that your partner actually will hurt themselves. That's the thing. Is that not enabling? And it's coming from a very well-intentioned place. You do not want your partner to hurt themselves. You actually want them to help themselves. And you think, maybe this time if I stick around, if I help, then they will finally get the help that they need. Problem is especially with BPD, is that there's a lot of shame that's below the surface. And to sit with a counsellor, it brings up a lot of shame. It really does. And it's a painful process coming to consciousness. I believe Jung himself says there is no coming to consciousness about pain. It's hard. Shadow work is hard. Through counselling, it's an opportunity through the counsellor to look at your shadow, to see exactly what you're projecting onto others, what you're displacing onto others, and to see that within yourself so that you can get the aha moments, get the clarity to then start to make peace with this all. Because until you make peace with your own shadow, you will always be projecting it onto others. So this is really hard. And often people who do have BPD, when they are new to counselling and therapy, they treat the relationship with the therapist much like relationships in general. They push and pull, they come and go. So that does not mean that someone who has BPD cannot stick to therapy. Absolutely, people can. It really depends on their own inner resolve and their own inner determination. Perhaps it's the first time that they've ever addressed this huge amount of abuse that they've experienced in the past. So maybe they're daunted at the prospect of counselling or seeking therapy. So it seemed like a good idea at the time. You get back together and she procrastinates, he procrastinates, stops happening. There are other ways to deal with this. It doesn't have to be one-to-one counselling, which is very daunting. This is personally why I retrained in coaching, and I offer coaching as well as counselling, because sometimes it is just a bit too, it's re-traumatizing to talk about the past. If you've experienced a lot of abuse in your past, talking about it, especially with a stranger, it's terrifying. So with coaching, you're not talking about the past, you're actually addressing, it's more about looking at your habits and how your daily lifestyle, your daily habits, your patterns are affecting you where you want to get to. Personally, I'm a fan of both. I think it's helpful to go back into the past to understand the origins of your adaptive ways of beings, of why things happened, to then be able to make peace of it. Because when it comes to conscious awareness, then we can integrate it better, we can make peace of it. If things aren't addressed from the past, then if we haven't made peace of it, it will keep manifesting in our life. We can't run away from our past, we really can't. But perhaps sometimes it's better to have some sort of coaching. So for people who have BPD, for example, cognitive behavioral therapies have been shown to be quite effective, of which DBT is a form of this. So this is ultimately like a form of coaching. It's working with the here and now and helping them with their impulsivity, with emotional regulation. Ultimately, it does help to also include like talking therapies, counselling, because often people who have BPD have been very traumatized. It's a trauma response. But it helps sometimes to get that confidence and self-esteem boost from being able to regulate yourself better, to be able to change your habits at least a little bit better, to then feel stronger and a bit more willing to explore the past. If your partner is serious about getting help, there are other options. Sit down and talk with them about group therapy, for example, group sessions for people who have CPTSD. And if your partner has been abused in the past, then no doubt they probably have some lingering CPTSD and PTSD. And often this is an entry into talking about counselling, because BPD is so stigmatized. It's for someone who has a lot of shame, and to be told, hey, I think you're borderline, you need to go get help. It makes it even harder to seek out help because of the stigma around it. So group sessions to do with CPTSD, even CODA, so Codependent Anonymous, because people who have BPD are codependent, just like people who are massive people pleasers. It's lots of people are codependent. Ultimately, you need to be really honest with yourself. It's easy to live in denial when you really care about this person. You want it to work out. You just want it to go back to how it used to. But it will never go back to how it used to when you two first met. It never will. Doesn't mean that you can't make it work, but it really depends on your partner's willingness to work on herself, to be self-motivated, to work on himself or herself, and not need you to keep prodding them. That's the thing. If you need to keep prodding them, you are the parent in this relationship. It becomes a parent-child dynamic. You want someone who's your equal. Someone who's your equal is self-motivated. You may need time to see this. Perhaps it takes a little bit of time, but you need to be honest. Am I actually seeing progress? And am I comfortable with this rate of progress? To be able to have these conversations with yourself and actually with your partner. If you're willing to do all of this, then maybe it can actually work. But always be honest with yourself and be willing to admit when you're wrong and when it really isn't working. And when you know deep down, I think you just know deep down when it's just not going to work, when it isn't working. Maybe you've got back together and the same problems still keep happening. To stop ignoring that within yourself, because if you ignore the big no, then what happens? Does it not just turn into depression, loss of motivation, anxiety, stress, disease? Being honest and authentic with yourself will save you. And you will encourage this with your partner. And if he or she can't match that, then that's okay. They're going on a different journey to you, and you've got your own journey now. I hope this video was helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you can relate, if you are in the situation and you need some further help, maybe one-to-one counselling with me online might help. Let me know. Drop me an email. My email address is in the description box below. All right, I'll leave it there. Have a lovely day, and until next time, bye for now.